Hey, we should be up by now. Hopefully, we are. Hey, everyone who stops by every week to listen to my reaction to the episode on the new House of the Dragons episode. I just got through, finished watching it maybe about 10 minutes ago. So, we are about to go down this road. Now, I put a spoiler alert in the description here. So, I have read the books. I know the backstory of this particular show or the situation where it comes from. And if you want to know more about that, of course, there are a couple of books that mention this scenario and what's happened. There are also some wonderful podcasts that talk about exclusively George R. R. Martin content when it comes to A Song of Ice and Fire. You can go and check those folks out, and they will give you hours of content on the backstory of each and every character in this whole situation, which is bananas. So I'm going to mention certain things. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, you might want to leave now and watch it and experience it yourself. So I'm going to talk about certain things. I'm not going to spoil everything that goes on, but baby, well, okay. So, where do I start first? I enjoyed the episode overall. I do enjoy this series. It's a lot going on. It's even messier than listening to the books where you get the stories of Daemon Targaryen and uh, this whole scenario and Rhaenyra and everything that goes on with her. Um, it's just very, this is crazy. So in the last episode, we know that of course Valerion's daughter dies. Um, and so in this episode, they start off with the funeral. The uncle is saying his last rites to his niece before they put her body in the sea. And Damon, being Damon, starts fucking chuckling. And her uncle looked at him like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Now, here's the thing about Damon. Um, Damon is one of those guys that's going to be his reaction. Um, do I think Damon was hurt? Yeah, he was hurt about his wife. We see other scenes. You're like, yeah, he is sad that she died. I think he's just one of those guys that has this like nervous laugh, or he doesn't understand or doesn't know how to express his feelings other than I'm gonna laugh at it. So I think he's just one of those people. But people look at him like the uncle looked like he wanted to like slice his throat for a second, like what the hell. So yeah, you did get some moments like that in this episode. It got really damn awkward for a lot of people. I mean, because they have this long after funeral, the repast kind of session. Everybody's drinking and eating and trying to have conversation, and it's just a lot of looks that people were giving each other. Um, a whole lot of looks. They had the kids. Um, they had the kids in this thing, and then you get to see a little bit more interaction with the kids and how the kids will react. You get to see Helena, who is just an oddball. You know who? And just for those who don't know, Helena is King Varys's youngest daughter. He has two. Rhaenyra, who's the story we see a lot of centering about. Helena is his youngest daughter, and she's a bit of an oddball. She is. She's an oddball, and so like she reminds me of that girl from Harry Potter who was the odd one who could see uh, death or something like that. What is her name? She's really odd. She reminds me a lot like her. Like there's something. She's an odd girl, and so that's the one who I believe it's Jace. I believe it's Jace who's supposed to marry. Who is the I believe the eldest. Unless I'm getting names all fucked up. But he is the eldest son. He's promised to marry Helena, and so the mother's like, "Yo, go." Well, first say go say something to your cousins. They just lost their mother. There's things you have to do. And he's like, why am I doing this shit? He's not it's his kids and this is kids being kids, but they can't really be kids. The adults are trying to be like, hey, you have to do this, you know, yeah, um, Grandpa Corliss is trying to give the one two the Grandpa Corliss is trying to give the 1-2 punch to the youngest one, who I think is Luke. Hey, you're gonna be the Lord of Driftmark. And he's like, I don't want to do that. He's a kid. This is he's seen all his death. Um, Obviously, he cared about his aunt, and he's sad about the whole damn thing. And they're kids, and you have these adults having these kids like, hey, you have to act like this now, and the kids are like, I don't even want to, I don't want, like, I'm sad too. I don't want to be a part of this, and like his standpoint on it was very cute, because it's relatable. He says, I don't want to be Lord of Driftmark, and the father, Corliss, who we've had another scene with, that actor's doing a wonderful job playing him. He's doing a very wonderful job, I will say that. He's like, I don't want to be Lord of Driftmark because that means everybody's dead, which is true. The only way that that kid can be Lord of Driftmark is that if everyone dies, and he doesn't want everyone to die. And to get to Corliss a bit, his wife, once again, Corliss is stuck on this thing like, my wife should have been queen, I should have been king consort, all this other shit. And his wife is like, baby, you got to let this go. I have let it go years ago. Let's let this shit go. Let's be realistic. You know damn well them kids ain't our sons. She's trying to get him to just let stuff go because it's only going to get worse. Like, this whole situation is highly dangerous. And he just can't let it go. He's like, no, I'm a be that guy, and I'm gonna have my family. And that's been a problem in this whole series with multiple characters. This pride that they have, they let it get in the way of everything else. There are dangerous situations here that people are getting put in, and no one seems to, the people, the reasonable characters in this show who are like, yo, people dropping left and right, all kinds of shit's happening. Let's, not do this. It's just like caution to the wind. And this is like one of those shows where there's so many. I think in Game of Thrones, the TV series, there weren't so many warnings of people doing things. In this show, there's a lot of people trying to give good advice, and it just ain't being taken. So that's interesting. The plight, and just be that's not something the writers put in here. That has always been the theme of this particular circumstance, even in the books. That pride gotten away from a whole lot of stuff, and it's a lesson. So I don't want to go too much more into that side of things because I know how this ends, and you should too. Because if you watch the Game of Thrones, this scenario is mentioned twice by two different characters, but not that you're going to remember those little details. So on that end, because I don't want to spoil everything, 'cause there's some interesting things that go down. Um, Damon and Rhaenyra, woo yeah. I'm gonna let y'all watch that. However, we get something I've been waiting to happen. And it did happen. My prediction was right. And that was one of the kids was going to lose an eye because one that literally happens in the story. That I read that one of them will lose his eye, and I was waiting for that scenario to actually happen. That's what I was waiting for, and it actually did happen. First, we had a wonderful kids beat up with blood and all that stuff. So, and someone lost an eye playing with knives. So I don't, it's an interesting scene to see, but I will give it to her that Rhaenyra's kids will defend each other as brothers, but they also defend their cousins because it was one of those squabbles that got way out of hand, right? The elder brother was drunk, like he was like in his cups and got passed out drunk. That's how he deals with death. He gets drunk. And so the younger brother, it's really turning into a little shit. you know, you thought the first brother who's off, but the younger one, yeah, he's really showing his true colors. But he did get his damn dragon, and so, but I want y'all to watch that. That it's something to see. But oof, there's just so many details of things. The standoff, the famous scene that they keep showing in the commercials happens in this episode, and overall stuff looked pretty good. In this episode, we had a bunch of action, we had some death, we had some people losing eyes, we had dragon riding. Um, we had some really good stuff happen in this episode. So, uh, though there were some slow scenes and there's some stuff in the end that happens that is like, did so and so fake his? Well, actually, yes, he did fake his death. So one character fakes their death. I'm not trying to spoil everything for you, but one character fakes their death, even though in the story, that's something a little bit that the writers played with because in the actual history of Westeros, when they tell the story, they said that certain character died a certain way. But in this one, they have him die a little. He dies completely differently than what's in the actual source material, and he seems to be have faked his death, and technically that'll be the end of us really seeing his character again. Not unless not unless we did a little something extra, but I won't say much on that. Just to give y'all some excitement to what to look forward to in this episode if you haven't watched it. Costumes look great. They always been looking great. A lot of people planning and plotting, and you see the groups getting together, and you see the standoff. But a major scene with the kid losing the eye, and then other things happening are have been very interesting. You see Mr. Christian Cole. Who's being more of an idiot as he is. So it's interesting how this whole thing is going to go because technically, uh, I'm going to keep that for later. Um, Now, my whole point in being this is simply this. They're going to do another time skip. I saw the preview for the next episode. There is another time skip because all the characters, including the one who loses their eye, is much older. He's like a teenager or he's or a very young adult. So we do get another few years, and we'll get characters who are aged up in terms of the kids, and we should see some other action. I think in the last episode, remember my whole thing about the season is whether or not we were going to get certain characters die. Like, is Viserys going to die at the end of the season, and the next season is where we get the dance, what becomes Dance of the Dragons. Um, and it looks like he's out of commission for something, so most likely he's going to die in the next episode. um and but we're already seeing more and more of the conflict happening. Daenerys is getting closer to death. I think the next episode he dies, and I think so. I think he dies in the next episode, and that's my prediction, that either he's going to die at the end of this excuse me, die potentially, depending how fast, but I say by the end of the season I think Viserys is going to be dead, and we're going to start the new season with the rest of this conflict. 'Cause I think this is being renewed for 2 seasons. So I don't know how long they're going to stretch the story. I think this is one of those shows that yeah, you can do, and this is with them skipping a whole lot of time. I think they can get through a show with another 8 episodes, another season with another 8 episodes. So that's what I think they're going to do. But I don't see this shit lasting a third season. It better not be lasting no damn third season. As much time skips they've been doing, they're about to do another time skip, which I think is like 4 or 5 years or some crap like that. So I think next week's episode we will finally meet the end of Viserys and the escalation of this conflict that will later on become the Civil War in Westeros, which will have the next season in which we get the rest of the story should be wrapped up by then. So that's what I think. I didn't spoil too much this time. So you get to watch the episode and truly enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed some of the shenanigans that went on in this episode. And there was some shenanigans. But on a positive end, if you like dragons, they had a beautiful scenes with the dragons, especially a bunch of them flying in the daytime. It was a really good scene. So if you're into fantasy and you like that kind of stuff, you've been waiting for that shot where there's multiple dragons. Um, there's a couple of shots like that. So very beautiful. So if you're into that, you will enjoy some parts of this episode. Um, yeah, I think you really enjoy certain parts of this episode. So until next time, I will see you next week. Around the same time, right after the show. We'll sit down, I'll give my tea, and hopefully you'll go watch the rest of the episode or watch it again by yourself or with some family. Anyway, see you guys